The algorithm had been written on the glass wall of the boardroom for exactly 127 days when Marcus Chen first noticed it. Not because he'd been counting, that was just the number scrawled in red marker. Beneath the equation, along with tallies of everyone who'd failed to solve it. Marcus wasn't supposed to be in the executive suite at 11 p.m., but the marble floors on the 42nd floor didn't clean themselves, and the CEO of TechVance Solutions, the brilliant and infuriatingly arrogant Adrian Cross, had very specific standards. No streaks, no dust, no evidence that ordinary people like Marcus even existed in his world. "Solve this algorithm and I'll marry you," Adrian had announced to a room full of Stanford and MIT graduates 3 months ago, that signature smirk playing on his lips. The challenge had gone viral within hours. Mathematicians from 17 countries had submitted solutions. All wrong. Adrian had even offered $1 million prize. But it wasn't really about the money. Everyone knew that. It was about his ego, his untouchable genius, and finding someone who could match it. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart past the glass wall, stealing a glance at the string of numbers and symbols that had stumped the world's brightest minds. He'd seen it 100 times now, always from the corner of his eye, always while invisible in his gray uniform. But tonight something was different. Tonight Marcus actually looked at it. His hand stilled on the mop handle. His breath caught. And then, despite every instinct telling him to mind his business, to stay in his lane, to remember his place, he walked up to the glass wall. The algorithm was elegant in its complexity, a beautiful maze of recursive functions and nested loops designed to optimize AI learning patterns. But there, buried in the third line, was something everyone had missed. Not an error, exactly. More like a blind spot. An assumption that didn't hold if you'd ever actually struggled, ever actually failed, ever actually been told you weren't smart enough. Marcus had been told that his whole life. He found a dry erase marker on the conference table. His hand trembled as he uncapped it. This was stupid. This was so incredibly stupid. He was a 42-year-old janitor with a community, college dropout resume, and a daughter who needed braces. He cleaned up after genius. He didn't claim to be one. But his hand moved anyway. He wrote 3 lines. Simple, elegant. A solution that didn't brute force its way through the problem, but rather stepped around it, recognizing that the fastest path wasn't always forward. Sometimes you had to go backward first. Sometimes you had to be willing to look weak to become strong. It was a lesson he'd learned the hard way. Marcus stepped back, stared at what he'd written, then quickly erased it. His heart hammered. He'd finish cleaning and forget this ever happened. Adrian Cross lived in a different universe, one where janitors didn't... Don't. Marcus spun around. Adrian stood in the doorway of his private office, still in his tailored suit despite the hour. How long had he been watching? "Don't erase it," Adrian said, walking forward. His expression was unreadable, that perpetual smirk notably absent. He stared at the glass wall, at the solution Marcus had written, and for a long moment said nothing. Marcus's mouth went dry. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have touched..." "It's correct." Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. "After 3 months and 847 submissions from people with more letters, after their names than you have in yours, it's correct." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. "How?" Adrian turned to face him. And Marcus saw something he'd never seen in the CEO's eyes before. Genuine confusion. "How did you see it?" Marcus swallowed hard. "The assumption in line 3. It presumes infinite resources. But nothing has infinite resources. Not computers. Not people. You can't optimize for speed if you don't account for limitation. You have to work with what you have, not what you wish you had." Adrian stared at him for what felt like an eternity. Then he laughed. Not his usual condescending chuckle, but something raw and real. "Do you know who you sound like?" Marcus shook his head. "My father. He was a mechanic, dropped out of high school. Could fix anything because he understood that elegant solutions aren't always complicated. They're just honest." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I spent 20 years trying not to be him, trying to prove that I was smarter, better, and here you are, proving that I'm still just as arrogant as I was the day I left home and told him his world was too small for me." The vulnerability in Adrian's voice made Marcus brave. "Why the challenge? Really?" Adrian walked to the window overlooking the city, its light stretching toward infinity. Because I'm 36 years old and I've built an empire, and I realized I'm completely alone. Everyone who wants to be with me either wants my money or is intimidated by what they think is my intelligence. I thought if someone could solve my algorithm, maybe they'd actually understand me. Maybe I'd finally found an equal. That's not how people work, Marcus said quietly. You can't reduce a human being to a problem you can solve. Trust me, I've tried. Your daughter? Adrian had done his homework, or maybe he just paid attention in ways Marcus didn't expect. My wife, ex-wife. I thought if I could just work hard enough, make enough money, be enough, but I was so busy trying to solve the problem of our marriage like it was an equation that I forgot to just be present, to listen, to be kind. Marcus picked up his mop. She didn't leave me because I wasn't smart enough or successful enough. She left because I stopped seeing her as a person and started seeing her as something to fix. Adrian was quiet for a long time. The offer was public. Solve the algorithm, get married. I can't exactly back out. Now my shareholders would have a field day. That smirk was creeping back, but it was different now. Softer. Though I should mention, I'm not actually proposing to you. No offense. None taken. I'm straight, happily single, and you're not my type. Fair enough. Adrian pulled out his phone. But I am going to wire you $1 million, and I'm going to do something else. What? I'm going to hire you. Not as a janitor, as a consultant. Because I just realized that TechVance Solutions has been optimizing for the wrong variables. We've been hiring for credentials instead of for wisdom, for degrees instead of for perspective, for people who've never failed instead of for people who've learned how to get back up. Marcus's throat tightened. I haven't finished my degree. Do you want to? Yes, but my daughter, I'll pay for her braces and your tuition. Consider it an investment in the only person in this building who had the courage to write on my wall. Adrian extended his hand. What do you say, Marcus? Want to help an arrogant CEO remember what his mechanic father tried to teach him? Marcus thought about his daughter, about the bills stacked on his kitchen counter, about every time he'd been invisible, every time he'd been overlooked. But he also thought about what had made him stop and look at that algorithm in the first place, not ambition or greed, but simple human curiosity. The belief that maybe, just maybe, his perspective mattered. He shook Adrian's hand. On one condition. Name it. You call your father, tonight, and you tell him you were wrong. For the first time since Marcus had met him, Adrian Cross's smirk disappeared completely, replaced by something that looked almost like tears. Deal. 3 years later, Marcus Chen stood on a stage accepting an award for innovative AI development. His daughter in the front row, his degree framed in his new office. Adrian Cross sat beside his father in the audience, both of them cheering louder than anyone else. The algorithm that had stumped the world became the foundation for TechVance's most successful product. An AI that optimized not for speed or efficiency, but for human limitation and resilience. An AI that understood that the best solutions don't come from having everything, but from working beautifully with what you have. And Marcus learned that sometimes the most important equations aren't the ones written on glass walls. They're the ones written in the quiet moments when someone sees you, really sees you, and chooses. Kindness over ego, wisdom over credentials, humanity over everything else. Because that's the algorithm that solves everything. Be present. Be kind. Be willing to see genius in unexpected places. And maybe, just maybe, pick up the marker even when you're sure you're not supposed to.